Cutting edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw-dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul is awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. All right, you divine lions and lionesses, America's constitutional republic. This is a very powerful episode where I have three high-level insiders joining me, Brad Wozny, to expose the hidden history, explosive documents, buried truths surrounding JFK, the White Hats, and President Trump's decades-long plan to stop America from being handed over to the UN by George Bush while orchestrating the takedown of the deep state through the reinhabitation of America's constitutional republic, which they argue was overthrown in 1871 by the City of London and turned America into a corporation and every citizen into corporate chattel and slaves. This draws on the National Archives and Library of Congress, newly surfaced documents long hidden from the public's view, FOIA records, and the lens of actual biblical prophecy from the Creator himself. This episode dives into America's forgotten foundations and the constitutional republic, once again encompassing Canada, Greenland, Mexico, and Cuba. This has been unfolding behind the scenes for decades, and now here it is on the show today. If you want the receipts, the revelation, and no holds barred deep dive into the battle for America's soul, this one delivers. We're live right now, you divine lions, lionesses. I'm your host, Brad Wozny, and once again, welcome back to the Sovereign Soul Show. You know, our creed, our ethos stands for love, levity, and liberty. That's the most powerful power in the universe from our great omnipresence and divinity, the God, which is gifted to us. Now, one of the couple of things that might be for you overseas, or you're just tuning in for the first time on this show, and this might be the first time you're becoming aware about constitutional republic and a return to a re-inhabited Republic of America, might even sound shocking. So let me just once again remind you a little bit about my background and the fact that you're about to meet these three high-level insiders in the United States of America Republic, and those incredible men and women who are also stand with them, behind them, and the 22 million they had in 2012 are ready to get going in a big way, blessed by JFK all the way back then, the White Hats, the United States military, and President Trump today. Now, if you don't recall, I joined up in my country, Canada, and volunteered my services as a Canadian infantry soldier. I had no idea that Canada, that I was born in as a man on the land, is actually a crown corporation that was registered in Washington, D.C. in July 1st, 1867. So yes, anybody in Canada right now, in over 100 shows of the nearly 900 we've done right here in the last 3.5 years, have shown the sec.gov registration documents confirming that. And right now, the headquarters for Canada is still on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. These are facts. Then we turn around and we look at strawman, corporatocracy, and the fact that you have the Basel system and the SWIFT financial system run out of the City of London, which has all of the Commonwealth countries that just stole the wealth from the commoners, including the United States of America in 1871. Now, I'm not the great historian here. I'm just sharing with you some of the deep facts that'll bring us up to speed as I introduce these incredible patriots to you right now. On screen, you see the new interim governor of California, Debbie Fall. It's an honor to have you here, ma'am. You also see Clyde Cleveland, the pro tem attorney general for Florida. Election is coming up. And then finally, this incredible man, Dean McGann, the aide-de-camp of President James Timothy Turner of the re-inhabited Republic. For those who have been in my audience for the last several years, you may remember the 3 shows I've had with a woman named Sandy Miarecki. One of those shows is a roundtable with the generals that I support, Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, United States Air Force, 3-star, and Major General Paulie Valley, U.S. Army retired from Stand Up America U.S. Foundation. And Mayor Recchi was telling everybody, re-inhabited Republic, Northwest Ordinance, this is the way to go. And it went wild. It was amazing. We were like, this is incredible. But then it came to pass that we learned that she was an infiltrator, and SG Anon made an incredible post last year after having a chance to review all the documentation And by the way, this is blessed by the generals I just mentioned too. So, lady and gentlemen, welcome to the Sovereign Soul Show. Thank you for standing in your honor, duty, honor, country, as the West Point Creed is. And thank you so much once again for standing up the Republic, the Constitutional Republic of America, which I believe is going to be handed back very shortly, but you'll tell us more than I could tell anybody in this audience. And President Trump has been doing an incredible job driving us to this point in time. So over to introductions. If we don't mind, I'd like to go to the current governor of the re-inhabited Republic of California, Debbie Foll. Would you please introduce yourself and a little bit about your background and title now as the governor? Congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you, Brad. It's my honor to be here and to be able to meet you and talk to your audience. I have a business background in retail, radio, and healthcare with an MBA. So basically, my life has been running companies and developing people the right way, where we support them and lift them up, kind of like in the Republic. And so when I heard the call to buy SGN, by the way, hey, you know what? This is your chance. I'd already seen President Trump give Washington, D.C. back to we the people. And I just knew immediately that was what I should do. Say, yes, I'm in. And so I volunteered, and they seated me as the Secretary of State. The interim, we're all interim placeholders, Secretary of State in the California State Republic. And so I landed with my feet running, and we stood the state up. And the people just elected me to represent them now as their servant leader.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And shall we go to Clyde and then Dean? Because Dean, I think that's kind of a nice way to bring it back to President Turner. And we use the clock method here. So right on my side, using the clock method is Mr. Clyde Cleveland. And once again, this man's continued family service. His father is a World War II ace, and his mother served at the Battle of the Bulge, and he is a gubernatorial candidate as well. So this is a man who is no stranger to politics and service for his country, and has incredible family. He looks like he's 40 years old. He's actually a grandfather. Can you believe it or not? He's just an incredible man. I've had a chance to meet him in person too. He's all heart and incredible intellect and a serial entrepreneur. Mr. Clyde Cleveland, please.
Thank you, Brad. The most important thing you said about the grandparent or the grandkids. We just had our 8th grandchild born 2 days ago.
Wow.
Lavinia.
Congrats.
Yeah. So yeah. So 4 kids, 8 grandchildren.
Fabulous.
But I want to see those kids grow up in a free country, in a free world.
That's right.
And so I've been involved in this for a very long time. Brad knows my story. I started putting up posters for Eisenhower when I was 6 years old. My parents didn't know where I was. I had my little red wagon. I went up to the insurance agency that had all the Eisenhower stuff and, patches and badges and everything and signs. And I loaded up my wagon and I started walking up and down Ridge Road, waving to people, putting up signs. And, I got home several hours later. My parents said, "Where were you?" And I said, "I was, putting up signs for Eisenhower." And, so I've been in this for a long time. Very, very political science major, ran for governor of Iowa as a libertarian in 2002, written 3 books on our history and about our country and our republic and the principles that are based on. So anyway, this is my life, and I'm so very, very proud to be part of this movement to get this republic finally. It looks like it's going to come to fruition here, and of course we can thank Donald Trump for that too, because he's and from what I can hear, he's already announced that we have taken the republic, that the corporation has already been put to bed. The original or the U.S. Corp is no longer active. And so, we've made a lot of progress in the last few years, but we still have some work to do. And but I think it's the wave, the momentum is really on our side right now. So, yep, that's pretty much it for me.
It certainly is. Thank you, Clyde. Appreciate it. And we'll talk as we get more into the program, everybody. There's incredible stuff going on in Florida for the Reinhabited Republic. So Clyde will be touching upon that. And I want to also thank Susan Price, Gold Star Mother, Natalie DeMarco, the Pro Tem Treasurer, as well as potential Governor Michael Bishop for putting us all together. And this has been in the works for a little while, but not this exact show. The Reinhabited Republic that I'm getting to. And over to Dean McGowan. By the way, this man is the godson of SEAL Team 6 Development Group founder, Commander Richard Marcinko, the man whose books I started reading in grade 6, the man who sat on the boards for Michael Jaco to decide if he wanted to go from Green Team and bring him on to Development Group. And this man is also no stranger, Dean, to service and having a family lineage in America to do so also with ROTC in his attendance. So over to you, Dean, and sharing your background and what you're doing now in the Republic and for President Turner.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Brad. So I usually begin my bio by saying I'm an Air Force Gold Star son. And we lost my dad due to Agent Orange. He was an Air Force combat rescue pilot, Jolly Green, during the Vietnam War. Very highly decorated, 2 Silver Stars, 9 Air Medals, and 6 Distinguished Flying Crosses. So that was one tour. And as I understand it, the most highly decorated for one tour of Vietnam. So I have a lineage to answer to here, and that's one of the reasons I got involved with the Republic. I grew up in the Panhandle of Florida, as you can imagine. Dad was stationed at Eglin several times with Aerospace and Rescue. And then finally, his last assignment was operations officer for First Special Operations Wing at Hobart Field. So Panhandle was home for me. I'm very much in tune with Florida and trying to help Florida get their act together for sure. Spent my university days at a place called the Citadel. Very much like West Point, our motto was duty, honor, and respect. So not that different from West Point. There's several interesting characters throughout history, one of which was General Westmoreland, who actually went to Citadel before he went to West Point. So got an interesting lineage there. And then our first female graduate from the Citadel, Congresswoman Nancy Mace. And you may have heard her raising some issues and a little bit of cane there on Capitol Hill in the last few years. So we got a storied history, which goes all the way back to firing on the Star of the West at the start of the Civil War there at Fort Sumter, South Carolina. So, pretty good legacy. I am a legacy. My dad was class 62. I was class of 83. I moved on into my career. I actually started the Citadel as international studies, political science, but because of my eyesight, found out I couldn't be commissioned in the military. So I took a different path, and we actually just acquired the curriculum from Stanford University for mass computer science. So I got involved in that. It was ground floor for a company called Oracle when I left the Citadel. And I spent 30-some years around the world implementing and building Fortune 200 companies' systems using the Oracle full stack. I mean, even up to the hardware once that was acquired from Sun Microsystems. So I've been around the traps with Sun Microsystems, Oracle, Gartner Group. I did advisory and research for Gartner Group in 2 key areas: customer relationship management and knowledge workplace, which is an interesting place to be these days when you look at collaboration, knowledge management, digital asset management, electronic education or e-learning. So lots of opportunities in that space. So my Patriot journey began after coming back from Australia. So I have children in Australia, so I'm a Commonwealth brother with you. I've got a son who's 20, just turned 21, and a daughter who's 20. They're Irish twins. They're exactly 11 months to the day apart. I'm doing this for them, as we've talked, your family, your progeny, your, posterity, doing it for them and for my mom and dad. My mom's last project before she passed in 2015 was putting together the Gold Star Monument at Chattanooga Memorial Cemetery for Gold Star mothers and wives. And, there's a legacy that have to live up to for sure. So again, my patriot journey coming back from Australia, I saw Trump get elected, couldn't believe it. I did not believe that was possible. That seemed pretty cool. And then 2020, I was like, what the heck just happened, right? Like most people in the world, and especially.
I've got you, Clyde, and Debbie.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So somebody just hit Dean's internet connection then. We'll give him a second and see if it comes back. If it doesn't, we'll just continue on. I'm sure he'll hop back in.
Yeah.
He was saying too much good stuff.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's how that happens once you're over the target.
You can't have any more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll give him right now. I think he's probably going to have to recycle and come back in with what they're doing on the internet connection. Clyde and then Debbie, would you like to just fill in where Dean is leaving off in terms of getting involved in the movement? And then we'll go into the history, because we're just wrapping up the intros, going into the history of America before this movement came back in.
There he goes.
Yeah. So, this started to be heard about, I would say, in the early 200s. I think 2004, 2005, people were starting to talk about the corporation and everything, but it didn't really start to gain momentum. My thinking is really until Tim got on these calls that he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And hundreds and hundreds of people would be on these calls all over the country. And that's when it really started to go. And I think that was like 2009, 2010.
He actually was approached by the military in 2008.
Yes.
So they approached 4 men, and they asked these guys, if you were to restore the republic, what would you do? Well, 3 of them wanted to make a whole new system. They didn't have anything to say about the constitutional republic. And Tim said, well, I don't have a plan, but I know where I can get one. And so he went off for 3 days, and he prayed and he fasted. And then the 3rd day, he received a download from God, our creator. And he just wrote all night until the next morning. And he had a team of people, because he was a radio and TV broadcaster teaching the constitutional republic. That's what Clyde was just saying. Yeah, the people were really starting to wonder, wait a minute, do we have a constitution? So yes, we have a constitutional republic, and he was teaching it. And so this team of people that had come together, they were called the Guardians of the Free Republic. They condensed this plan and they give it to the military. After the Guardians of the Free Republic were beckoned by the military to save the republic, the military said thank you, and pretty soon they came back and they said, where'd you get this plan? Because it's the best plan we've seen in 60 years. So, and that tells us right there that back in 2008, they had already been working, the military had been working on this for 60 years. And so from there, the Guardians of the Free Republic put out, and it's not going to show, the Restore America plan. And we show this Restore America plan is on our Truth Social channel. And it's 2 pages, and they're bullet points. And any of these old guards, as we call them, that talk to Tim today say, oh my gosh, President Trump is implementing your plan. Because here it all is laid out by our creator. And so we call this the military plan that was downloaded to Tim by the creator. The humble man that he is, he says, I don't want this. This is not about me. This is plan I didn't create. It came from him. We condensed it, because all this writing, and then they gave it back to the military. Yes, this is our Truth Social channel. And it requires lots of scrolling, because every single thing that we did as the California State Republic, we the people, is posted here. So if you get all the way to the bottom, you'll see the very first person making their proclamation. There, is that it? Is that the Restore America plan? No, this is the election. We were required at the end of our election to give a copy of our election results to the military. So this is us tagging our commander-in-chief and some others. And this is the cover letter of our election results report. But
And this is dated March 14th.
this post, right. So our election actually was held on January 27th, but we had a certifying team. We had affidavits that we had to wait for. It was a 1-day election, and in person with ID, paper ballots. I mean, this was probably California's first lawful election in decades.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, back to the Tim Turner plan.
Well, and before we jump in on the Tim Turner plan, if we could just go back to 1871 and the assassination of President JFK, because in my conversation with President Turner last week, there was about an hour and a half. We were on the call together, Dean and I, and then probably about 45 minutes or so with President Turner. And I've heard the story a few other times, but I think it's great to bring it back here now. What happened with the President JFK assassination in terms of the Republic? Then we have the George Bush conversation, and where President Turner then had these incredible downloads during his fast. Is it all right to just bring everybody up to speed from that historical context?
So you want to start, Clyde?
Well, I think, it was pretty obvious that JFK wanted change when he said, I'm going to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces. And he knew what was going on. We have the money power, the Ashkenazi Jews and their ilk, always there. The Rothschilds, Warburgs, Schiffs, the families that create all the wars and have been creating all the wars for a very, very long time, at least since the 1700s. When they got together with Weishaupt. Weishaupt and the Rothschilds signed their agreement to work together in 1776. And I thought that was really pretty interesting because it was the same year that we were signing the Declaration of Independence over in America. But that group and what we're doing has been going along all through that timeline until today. And those are the adversaries, the advocates for freedom, and the advocates for controlling the entire world. And they pretty much see us as like insects, and to be controlled, basically wiped out. So that's the battle that we're fighting right now, and I think that battle right now is coming to a head. And more and more people are waking up to who these people are and what's behind everything that's happening. The 2000 or the shots, the whole that whole thing with the COVID. That was just a big op to put us down and get rid of us, as many people as they could, and control us. And they have more reason to control. And both the Canadians could really see it. And that was amazing what the Canadians did to fight back with their trucks and their whole thing. And, and just amazing. But, this is all about the Great Awakening. We are in the middle of the Great Awakening. We're very, very fortunate to be alive to see a new age come into place, because we're finally gaining ground over this enemy that has been controlling us and trying to kill us for hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. And that I'm just saying it like it really is. This is what it is. And it's a war for survival and for freedom. And I think we're winning it right now. And God bless Trump for coming along because he was key to this. I think his relationship with RFK Jr. was critical. I think his relationship with his Uncle John is very critical because of all the things that are going to be coming out, the energy, the devices, and all the things that Tesla and his Uncle John worked on together. I don't know how many people know that story, but yeah, Donald Trump's uncle worked with, I think he was like the top engineer at, what's that top school in Massachusetts, the best engineering school in the country. Yeah, and he was the head of engineering department there. So a lot of people don't know these things, but there's a lot going on that's going to be coming out. That's going to be amazing. I mean, I think the energy devices, the wind farms that you showed the other night or yesterday on your show, Brad, what a joke. There's technologies out there that are far better than solar, far better than wind, far better than geothermal. And I think we're going to be seeing those coming, and we're going to be living in a new age. Yeah. And a lot of it is going to be because of the energy that's coming, the energy devices that are coming. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at it, we touched on George Bush for a moment, and we've actually seen that playbook roll out across Venezuela. And what you have now, and I've done a warning about this, it was October 22 of 2022, Vancouver City Council in British Columbia did the final sign-off on UNDRIP, which sold all the land, air, mineral rights, transferred it to the United Nations. That is something that I've heard multiple times over and over from members of the Reinhabited Republic that George Bush was going to do to America. And that seems to be a significant event as well to unfold to where we're getting to today. Debbie, would you mind just covering off that point about what happened that got now President Turner active with his millions of followers on his Coast to Coast radio shows and other things that he was doing at that time?
If you don't mind, I'd love to go back to 1871 just real quick to make sure, because a lot of listeners may not know, but our founding fathers gave us a constitutional republic. And in 1871, they inserted a foreign entity into our land that is 10 square miles. This was an ultra vires act. In other words, in excess of their authority, Congress inserted the Organic Act of 1871, which put in a different constitution. And this is when we lost our constitutional republic. And I think that's really important for people to understand, because they think we're a republic for which it stands, and to the republic, that we learned in the Pledge of Allegiance. But they continue to try to tell the people that we're a democracy when we are a constitutional republic. So we lost the constitutional republic long ago. None of us have ever lived in a republic. We've lived under this corporate entity. And so now fast forward past JFK, and all the way to this sellout by George H.W. Bush. And there was a deadline that what he had stated, which was stated to James Timothy Turner, that he had a deadline, that if the republic was not standing by April 1st, 2010, it would be gone forever. We would not be able to bring our republic back. We would have lost it forever. So what happened back then, because of the power of his number one knowledge about a constitutional republic, his radio show, his TV show, and this handful of guardians of the free republic, and with the Restore America plan, they pulled this thing together and they made that deadline, and they literally saved our republic, because they stood all 50 states up and they had their convention with 42 states, and they saved the republic by reseating it. So that's why they call it Reinhabited Republic.
Got it. April 1, 2010, then would have been when it was going to be handed over to the UN. And we are raised with April 1 is April Fool's Day. Now we have the knowledge beyond the Gregorian calendar that April 1 is actually New Year's Day.
Happy New Year.
And saying Happy New Year's, everybody, and New Year's Eve as we're recording this one live on the 31st.
Oh my gosh.
The last day of the year. So it's New Year's Eve, everybody. Celebrate that. You know you have a re-inhabited republic. It's up to all the Americans and then everybody else across the oceans of time right now that are listening, watching this broadcast, that you can participate. We'll be talking about that as we close it out. But I also have placed the links into the chat already on the California Republic, and everything is below the description of the show. So if you're watching this broadcast on Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, X, Facebook, you name it, all below the show. Same thing if you're listening to this, a replay on Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify. It's all below the show so you can connect with these individuals and their teams all across America. And if you're in another country right now and you're looking to be a sovereign nation and start a constitutional republic, perhaps like we just won in Alberta last night, congrats to everybody. Alberta independence is moving forward with its referendum in October because we crossed the threshold of 177,000 signatures last night. So kudos to everybody who did that.
Awesome.
All of the information and look at all of the documents and how to seat a republic in your former state, province, territory, whatever you have. This is a template that can be leveraged for the world, for good, for all of you to jump on and join. And it's backed by the good white hat military as well. Before military returns from the Law of War manual back to a civilian infrastructure, back to an ability for small forms of governance that follow a constitutional law and divine common law, not one that's been hijacked. We'll be talking about that a little later with our pro tem Attorney General of Florida, Clyde Cleveland, as well. So this is absolutely key for everybody to grab the mantle and get going on. This is a massive PSA, a public service announcement, not a PSA, as we'd say, up in Canada, but a public service announcement for the world. You can make America great again and making Earth great again for your children's children moving forward. And so thank you very much for that. So we had April 1, 2010 was the deadline. Would you all just mind telling us what happened then? Because I can bring in, one of the generals with their verification that they were also present to review these documents and authenticated it right here on the show a little while ago.
So if you don't mind, I have a letter to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. You're not going to be able to see it but it's in my hand. It's also on our True Social channel.
I'll go find it.
May 3rd.
What time it was, Debbie, just before you share that, do you know what date that was? Because I can search the True Social channel as you discuss it, and then I'll share it with
It's May 3rd, 2012. This is a letter to the office of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This was General Dempsey at the time. And this is the general that reached out to James Timothy Turner through a fella by the name of Ray. And he's actually in the CCs. It's a 4-page letter. Let's see, that would be Raymond Odierno, Chief of Staff of the Army. So this is a letter that James Timothy Turner wrote to the generals. And there were 6 generals CC'd plus General Dempsey about the process of which they were re-inhabiting the original seats of the Republic. And he talks about some of the mighty work that they did together to restore our constitutional republic. And the work and the plan included our peaceful, lawful, prayerful, and honorable repopulating or re-inhabitation of those original seats in the Republic, because they literally in 1871 took those seats, picked them up, and moved them into the corporation. So they didn't abolish it; they just abandoned the seats, so they sat empty. So this was the plan, and that is what they began doing then, is filling all of the seats. So I know in California, the date that they set the acknowledgement to all 50 governors, and the date that California was originally stood up was February 19th, 2011. So we are first in time, first in line here. We've been doing this for a while. Not all of us go all the way back. I don't. I started in 2024, but California has been stood up as a republic since February 19th, 2011. And Clyde, I don't know about Florida.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit earlier than that.
Right.
We had the advantage of having Tim Turner right there, just north of where the bishops lived, and Michael was the first interim governor of the republic in Florida, and I think that was 2008, 2009, 2010, somewhere in there.
Right.
Because we were having meetings and doing stuff all during that time. But yeah, it's really exciting. It's been fun. It's been a wild ride, and you can see it now, though. You can see it really gelling and really coming alive. People really realizing that letter you just showed with all those generals signing it. I hadn't seen that one before.
Okay, they didn't sign it. It was CC'd to them.
Oh, CC to them.
The signature is James Timothy Turner. You probably can't see that, but it is from his office as president of the republic to them. When they told him that they were asking for his help, they said, "Don't ever come to the Pentagon.
Right.
We're going to meet you." So this was a very private project, overt, if you want to call it that. And James Timothy Turner and these guardians of the republic did this mighty work back then. So this was given to us when Dean had mentioned we ratified our Constitution in 1849 as the Constitution that guaranteed us a Republican form of government. The California switched over to 1879. And there you go. Yeah, there's some of the original documents.
I was scrolling through True Social and I got to December. I thought 2012 True Social wasn't around. I was trying to look for a 2012, but I figured I would try the website.
These
So
are just
we're on
our
California,
website.
California Republic 1849.com, the document section. People want to follow along with this. Go ahead, Governor.
Yeah, so those are some of our the Constitution, and it guaranteed the people the three branches of government with the checks and balances, right? The executive, judicial, and legislative, of the people, for the people, by the people, which works from the bottom up, by the way. It's not a top-down system. This is from the bottom up, and this is where the people have all of the power. But so yeah, we have a lot of documents up. But when Dean came out representing Tim, then he gave us some of these additional documents. And when Tim did his work, he made duplicate copies. I think there's about 7 of them, maybe more, floating actually around the world. And California was presented with one of the original declarations of sovereign intent, which was a 2010 document, and the Proclamation of Claim and Interest, which is 2012. So that's the time frame that they stood the republic up. They saved it in 2010, and between that time and the time of, yes, there it is, Proclamation of Claim and Interest. And yes, yeah, this is part of the historical document that James Timothy Turner, with his patriots that came alongside of him, there it is, Proclamation of Claim and Interest. And they stood all 50 states up, and this was filed around the world at The Hague and at the UPU.
Yep.
The committee, there it says right there where it was filed, right?
The Universal Postal Union, which many people, unless they're sovereign, have no idea about, and the general postmaster generals that run the world via that. But I would also like to draw attention to people when you're looking at this on the screen. Again, we're on CaliforniaRepublic1849.com. You go to the document section, and this is the Proclamation and Declaration of Sovereign Intent. You're seeing the flags in the top right-hand section. You have the Flag Act of 1777, then the Flag Act of 1794, the Flag Act of 1818. That's a flag that is known the world over. Then you have a Flag Act of 2011. Now, this was filed April 30, 2012, but you see a Flag Act of 2011. That flag is very important. Would you all mind? Dean, by the way, had a brownout in Alabama. He texted me. So as soon as power is restored wherever he is with the wind circling around, he'll jump back on. But that was the flag behind him, the Flag Act of 2011. And would either of you mind explaining the significance of that as we go through this declaration of intent, probably 30 seconds or a minute as to why that's powerful.
Debbie, why don't you take that one?
Okay. Well, they gathered when they finally stood all of the states up. They had 42 states that came together. They had a quorum. They had their first congressional convention. They were in Utah. And my understanding is the governors were walking around the building on the outside in a storm while the delegates were in there, working out their issues, but they came up with the Flag Act. The forever glory was the Flag Act of 2012 that you showed there, and that Dean had behind him. Yeah. And that is the flag that is historically the flag of the Republic for the United States of America.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I hope we see it for Alberta and Canada and Greenland and Cuba and Mexico very soon with some extra stars added on there. But I'll continue because we have a lot of comments about this. When are we going to get Canada doing this? Debbie Rock, that's another comment we have in here. Boy, do we need you, Debbie. Thank you for serving. I'm so happy to be here. Lots of great comments and positive for you guys on the team. I'll continue, please.
Yeah. Well, I think people need to realize that when we're going to have work to do to build our republic. A lot of people don't realize it's going to take some work to reestablish our republic because it's going to be a whole different thing. We were talking about common law, God's law, and all that, but we're not going to be under admiralty law anymore under our republic. We're going to be going back to what's been called in the past common law. We're calling it God's law now, or natural law, because it's bottom-up government is what it is. It's the people in charge. And so instead of bar attorneys running our courts, these admiralty judges, and they're all corrupt, we're going to be creating our own Jural societies, which is the community coming together in the Jural society. And then we're going to be creating grand juries. We're going to have grand juries of 20. We'll always have 25 people in the grand jury. People will be rotating in and out. And when there's a crime or there's a problem or whatever, that grand jury is going to meet and take care of it. And we're not going to have people incarcerated unless they're somebody that is dangerous to others. We're going to have those people compensate the person that they've harmed. So when somebody commits a crime, they steal something from somebody, they hurt somebody, they have to make up for that. They have to compensate the person. Right now, the way our system works, the person that is harmed never sees any restitution. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah. Is there a way to mute the dog in the background?
I don't have a dog.
You were getting that.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
So right now, say somebody steals something from you, and okay, the police come, they arrest the person, they put them in jail. What happens to you? You've lost your car, or maybe they take it and they crash it. And, who's going to compensate you? The person is going to jail. We're going to be compensating them because we're going to be paying for them to be in jail. We're going to be paying their room and board. So the whole system right now is just screwed up. It doesn't work. And so the idea of compensating somebody for the harm we're going to go back to that principle.
That's right.
The other thing about our prison industrial complex is what we have in this country.
Yep.
Most countries have 1 to 2% of their population in jail. The United States has 7 to 8% of its population in jail. We have a prison industrial complex in this country, and that's because it's being run by this by the corporation, and the corporation is making money. But in most states, the highest expense that almost every state in the country has is incarceration. In most states, it's around 50% of their budget, incarceration. That can all, not all go away, but boy, we can, by going back to God's law, natural law, compensating the person for who you've wronged, we can completely change that whole picture. It'll make a huge difference. So that's another aspect of this is going to be, really interesting. And so we'll be creating these Jural societies. I know, Deb, you already have done that, right? And can you tell what you've done there in California to do that?
Well, yeah, I would love to.
Okay.
When I entered the Republic, like I said, I was seated as the Secretary of State, and they tasked me with the job of filling the seats and settling the counties. So we did all of that, 27 counties. The governor at the time, the interim governor, he insisted, now he had joined the Republic. Here's Dean.
Oh,
He's back, yay. The governor that I was working under had joined the Republic back in 2010, and he had the original paperwork that Tim had used when he came into California and stood it up. And it was, according to what I was given, the original 13-page document was a Jural society, which is a trifecta. And when I decided, okay, we're a Jural society, we're not going to go the assembly route because it's from the bottom up. People get to decide. I did my research about the Jural society. And the beautiful thing is the trifecta is an ecclesia, a grand jury, and a militia. And what that meant to me is the fact that ecclesia, if you think about the books of ecclesia, you've got Proverbs, books of wisdom, Proverbs, Ecclesia, Song of Solomon. What it means to me is that the people in the Republic are bringing in the wisdom to ensure that justice is being done with mercy, that our grand juries aren't going off the rails, that our militias not just shoot them up. No, they're here actually with a different purpose in the way they were originally defined, so that we can make our communities peacefully and lovingly and honorably and lawfully. So I'm very excited about our Jural society, and I actually had a birdie whisper in my ear, whether it's true or not, but the whisper was that Canada loves the Jural society too.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Certainly.
They're supposed to be peacekeepers, all these people, keeping the peace. We go back to that whole concept. There's a great book I recommend highly. I think it's my favorite book on common law, God's law. It's Richard Mayberry, Whatever Happened to Justice. And it's a fantastic book. And I highly recommend it. I did an interview with him. I highly recommend you look up my interviews on Rumble or YouTube. And I have an interview with him, Richard Mayberry, that he explains what common law really is, God's law. And it's really a great interview. So I highly recommend everybody watching that, so they get a feel for how significant this change is, going from admiralty, bar attorney law to the people's law, God's law.
Yeah, definitely. And Dean, welcome back, and thank you.
Yes. Thanks for coming back, Dean.
Hey, I appreciate being back. I just didn't expect a little bit of a brownout that took out our internet and the Wi-Fi, but it took a minute to reset.
Do you have any good comments about common law, like we were just talking about? That'd be great to hear from you on that.
Oh, absolutely. So, one of the things that I've been learning in my journey, and I was given a little bit of the background, but I went from convention of states to the sovereign journey, what we call our personal freedom journey, and then started looking at a way to establish the Republic of Tennessee. And that was before I even knew James Timothy Turner existed, right? Mm-hmm. And we actually worked together with the Republic of Texas, the model they set up in 1996 to kind of replicate that for Tennessee. We called it the Alamo Project, surprise. And it was, how do we replicate what you did in Texas so that we can become a republic in Tennessee? So that was kind of the journey: Convention of States, sovereignty, and then Republic of Tennessee. And then in that process became through attrition more than anything, the interim governor of Tennessee. And as I looked at things, and we discovered, more and more in the research, things like the Northwest Ordinance was unconstitutional, unlawful, because it was superseded by our Constitution. Surprise, surprise. And that's not just the Northwest Ordinance, but the codification from our Congress called One Stat 50. So those are one and the same. A lot of people try to mix them up. SG was very good at explaining that in his attestation in March 2025.
May I interject a comment about that?
Oh, absolutely.
Just saying, the Northwest Ordinance, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, please, is intended for the states north and west of the Ohio River. Mm-hmm. California has never been north and west of the Ohio River. We are south. Just FYI, it's never applied to us.
Well, and I think that's an important distinction. And we have a question in the chat calling out, what about the link that Sandy puts out, Sandy Biarecki, where everything is based on Northwest Ordinance Act. But then as you just mentioned, from a geographical standpoint, Governor, that would exclude so much more. Well, Texas.
Yeah, everything in the south.
We don't want to take off the Texas.
All the way across to Florida. We're south, guys. We're not in Florida. Anything on the east side of the Ohio River, it also would not apply to, right?
Right. That's correct.
And I find it quite interesting because we haven't got there yet, but we will. And I know, Dean, you're leading this way after this part of the conversation about there's a delta of time between 2012 and May of 2023 that will eventually cover. Yep. And during that delta of time, in a public fashion, really nothing happened. Yep. And then all of a sudden, all of California was ceded. And my gosh, Debbie, from the time you were the Secretary of State to right now, the elected governor, how many months was that?
Okay. Dean's going to get tired of hearing my story because I do it at the same time. Same way every time. I put my racehorse blinders on, guys. I do not do any side projects, okay? I didn't concern myself with other states. I didn't concern myself with T-shirts or commemorative coins or, sovereign packages, PAY sovereign packages. I didn't do anything but fill the seats and stand up the counties. 10 months and 17 days.
For California. Now, California is the equivalent of population of the second largest landmass on the known world of Canada.
Yeah.
Approximately 38 million souls.
Yeah.
39, I don't know how many, by the time they get some of them out of here.
Months. So,
but
anyway, we'll get back to this point about what happened in all those years and what did take place in all those years behind the scenes. But yeah, thank you for filling that void. And back to you, Dean.
Yeah, I was just going to say, with the Northwest Ordinance, you got to look at its origins, right? It was two bar attorneys from the Crown who wanted what? To establish territories so that they could take them over for the British. It was the East India Company, right? We heard that before. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what happened was, for whatever reason, when Brother James Timothy Turner, when our first president of the Republic, James Timothy Turner, was unlawfully kidnapped and incarcerated, there was a decision around 2014 to go back to this. There was no sense in the world for going back to it. Why? Because they held a Continental Congress or a Convention of States, depending on who you talk to, in Ephraim, Utah in 2010. And they established the lawful body of the United States. It was recognized by our Joint Chiefs of Staff, our SCOTUS, so Supreme Court of the U.S. It was recognized by the UPU, the UN, the Hague, and many other bodies, 132 plus countries around the world, as the lawful governance for America, the United States, right? There you go. That's the proclamation claiming interest. One of what I would refer to as the founding documents, the second generation founding documents for our republic. And you can see the various flags. They actually, after that, the Congress met and came up with a flag act, just like they did for the Betsy Ross flag. And oddly enough, Forever Glory looks a lot like it, but a globe of stars, because from Betsy Ross's time to where we are today, a lot of stars came in, right? But there was no need to go backwards. I call that the reverse engineered republic. It was unconstitutional. It was unlawful. It gave certain elements of the quote unquote leadership of that reverse engineered republic. It gave them authority to appoint and anoint positions like governor and secretary of state. They never had that authority, never should have had that authority. And it was not only the Constitution or a Supreme Court judgment called Strader versus Graham that said it was, unlawful and unconstitutional, but by God, we'd already reestablished back in 2010. And then we further took it into Congress. We produced the documents, Declaration of Sovereign Intent, Proclamation of Claim and Interest. Backwards was not an option, but that's what put us into that period, 2012, when James Timothy Turner was arrested, September 18th, 2012, through to May 17th. There's a date that'll ring with some people. May 17th, 2023 was released in the CARES Act, basically sent home to die, right? And, in that period, it was a complete and total doldrums. It was a hiatus, a void. I don't care how you want to look at it, but there was no progress. And why? Because in the very first instance, the republic was decimated when President Turner was, kidnapped and then incarcerated. A lot of people said, well, this is a bit risky for me. I'm out of here. Case in point, the Speaker of the House of Representatives left the country. The Vice President and Secretary of State, which were in the line of succession to the next president, actually were kicked out, surprisingly, just before Tim was arrested in 2012. And then that leaves what? Speaker Pro Tem is the next in line of succession. And that's where that president came from. And again, nothing happened. And whether it was by design or incompetence or whatever you want to call it, that's just unacceptable. I mean, it took them 8 months from scratch to put together the ability to go and have a Continental Congress, a Convention of States in Ephraim, Utah. You mean in 12 years, they couldn't do better than that? I mean, that's a worry. It's definitely something to ponder and consider. And, I leave that up to everybody else to look at. But again, this republic, the plan given by the creator to Tim Turner was all about republic being a stepping stone to God's kingdom on earth, right? And when you look at that, there should not have been any deviation whatsoever, let alone going backwards. So.
And 2012 is an interesting year because Obama was president then. 2012 is also when ISIS took a hit out on U.S. Army Major General Paul E. Vallely, who at that time, at the age of 72, is the oldest general from West Point to ever lead troops into battle. And that was over in a little place next door to Turkey. And Obama denied air support, and General Valley, leading from the front, who was taught by, just like he and General McInerney, 59 graduated West Point, and then 1961 with General Valley, and friends since West Point, were taught by the command, staff, and flag officers who won World War II from a battle standpoint in Europe. and he was leading from the front. And then we also have a clip, which is very hard to find still these days, where Obama in 2014 is on a major news network saying there's this General Valley who wants to bring in 250,000 Marines and soldiers to take back America for the Republic. That was 2014, Obama saying that. And by the way, as of 3 months ago, that hit by ISIS on, which comes directly from Obama, is still levied upon General Valley. He can't travel over to parts of the African continent. So there's interesting distinctions here that I'm making for certain reasons as
Sure.
well.
Sure. It was interesting that 2014 was when Tim Turner found out about and heard about from Gene Hertler and David Hertler, who wrote the Reinhabited volumes 1 and 2, and then the third, which I called the third volume, which is America's Plan for the Republic and the Rest of the World, right? God's Solution for the Republic, for America and the rest of the world. And it's a brilliant, discussion. But that was Tim being the ghostwriter with the researcher team of Gene and David Hertler. And through discussions, basically letters back and forth while he was incarcerated, heard about the Northwest Ordinance. And of course, he had more in his mind than worrying about what that was and where it came from. And then only discovered that when he was released in 2023.
Wild, just wild. And I'm glad as well that President Turner is still with us, despite all of this. But just like Tina Peters, just like some other individuals who are persecuted patriots in a prison right now in America, there are certain things that have not been lifted nor acquitted, including many of the J6ers. Is there any hope that might be coming from that before we go all the way back to the Republic discussion here for President Turner?
I think there's always hope that we're going to be able to fix this. There's good indication from an investigation that's being conducted that it'll actually be able to be overturned. We should know something very soon. And the good news is when we hear about that, in fact, there's discussions going on as we speak today. When we hear about that, it's less than 30 days when they have to make it so or move on. So we're getting tight on bringing him back to be the voice of the Republic as the first president of the Republic. And we couldn't be happier about that.
Oh, that's
when you talk about, Tina Peters and the J6ers, please know that the incarceration and kidnapping of James Timothy Turner was not the first time they tried to take him out. George H.W. actually put a hit on him for $25 million and almost took him out in SeaTac. Thankfully, he was, let's say, warned by 3 or 4 people in 5-10 minute time span that said, Creator just spoke to me while they were in prayer and you need to leave right now. And he fortunately did, but the mercenary team that was there to take him out, weren't successful. How did that come about? Well, several months before that, the Federal Reserve approached him in Tucson, Arizona, and they said, we've got an opportunity for you. We'd like you to step away from the Republic, and for that, we'll give you $5 billion. We'll change your identity, let you live anywhere in the world you want to, and you can, live out your life that way. And he just basically looked at him. He said, I got this plan from the Creator, and that would cause me to have to go back on my word with the Creator. And more importantly, it's just against my integrity. It's not going to happen, right? And they say, well, if you don't take that plan, there's another one. So you can have the gold or you can have the lead. And I think we all know what that means.
Yeah.
Again, he rejected it. They again tried again in Chicago several months later, and he gave them the same answer, not surprisingly. And they said, well, I guess plan B is going to be in effect. And that's what, eventuated in SeaTac up in Seattle, Tacoma area. They tried again. Several months later, he was going to a seminar, putting together a meeting, if you will, up in New York. And people were setting up, and he'd gone to meet a personal friend for dinner. And as they were setting up, this gentleman comes in and asks, is James Timothy Turner here? I need to speak to him. And they said, no, he's actually away, but, he'll be back soon. We can talk. You can talk to him when he comes back, or, we can contact him, later. All that good stuff. the guy says, okay, that's all right. I'll probably be back later. He walks out, calls a valet to bring his car. The car door is open underneath the canopy. And as the car door opens, the guy falls dead right there. Didn't get in the vehicle, just right between the door and the vehicle. And of course, you know, all the EMTs, you know, police, everybody show up. So the guys inside setting up come out and go, oh my goodness, what happened? We just talked to this guy. And they go, well, that's a well-known hitman in the New York area. Again, you know, you guys may try to take me out, says James Timothy Turner, but I'm pretty sure, and we'll see if the creator's going to give you permission. And there's 2 good incidents, and of course, 10 years and 7 months in prison, including high security system inside of Marion, Illinois, high security prison. There's actually a unit that reports directly back to Washington, D.C., where he was held, with people like Victor Booth, who was the merchant of death that was traded for the basketball player, and several of the people who were involved in the original attacks on the World Trade Center were his cellmates in that unit. It was also the unit that people, when they shut down Alcatraz, that they went to. And in fact, they took some of the very significant bars from Alcatraz and put them in that unit in the cells. So quite a history there.
Holy smokes.
Man, I didn't hear that one.
Yeah. I didn't hear about that part too.
No, that's amazing.
That's what comes from being aide de camp. You get to hear these things once in a while, and you can impart them to our fellow patriots who are supporting our first president and reestablishment, the repopulation of that which is already re-inhabited. You know, I can't emphasize that enough. You know, what's going on out there with the pretenders. Mm-hmm. I take the Italian driving position. What's behind is no importante. We're going ahead. We're driving straight ahead as effectively and efficiently as we possibly can.
Well, wasn't the corporation actually canceled when Trump went to England right after he was elected for the last presidency?
Well, that was one of the final aspects of it. According to Tim, in 2013, the Pope signed a letter called Letters Confederate, and those letters actually dissolved the corporations, not just here but around the world, all the corporations,
including Canada.
It's been taking this long for that to actually eventuate, and of course, you know, Trump carrying on the mission that First President Turner was given by the Army of Northern Virginia. Right, he's the execution side of the plan, the marketing. I'd like to say marketing and execution side of the plan. Right at this stage, and We're seeing it every day. You know, this cohesive dismantling, what I call demolition and renovation at the same time. So you know, you still have to keep your foundations in place, but they're demoing and renovating concurrently, and that's a bit of a challenge. That's why it's taking so long. But look at how far back that goes. I mean, the generals that met right after JFK was shot, right?
Right.
That Christmas Eve, Eisenhower, MacArthur, Marshall, if Patton had been alive, and maybe he was, I'm not sure, he would have been present as well. And that was where the plan originated, right? And when Trump came in and he's talking about 200 generals that are behind him, guess where they're coming from? Army of Northern Virginia. Why? That's the original army for the Republic, going all the way back to Civil War and before, right?
Yeah.
There's this, you know, this sequence of events that we're living on a daily basis now. What a time to be alive and to experience this in real time, right? There you go, the Don Rowe Doctrine. There you go.
And we're seeing that play out live, and I appreciate the historical aspects of this, Dean, and all of you for bringing it up for people as well, because you know there is some biblical prophecy around the 7 kingdoms of the known earth. I say the known earth because that's where we all are. I don't know how many. Raise your hands. How many people have been over the ice wall in Antarctica? Right? Nobody can do that right now at the moment. So say the 7 kingdoms of the known earth. This is actually a biblical prophecy, and then you've also had a download from Creator, as you have shared here, Dean, that President Timothy Turner had when Debbie was mentioning. He went off for 3 days, 3 nights of fasting in a cabin, in a woods, got quiet, got the download to a 22-point plan to bring about the republic again and re-inhabit. And the military generals and their staff couldn't believe how incredible it was. And then what we see is the declaration of sovereign intent that we've just shown now 3 times already on the channel. People, again, you can go to the California Republic link, which is down here in the description. Go to documents. You could see all of this here, registered at the United Nations, Universal Postal Office, Union, down at the Vatican City and the Vatican Bank, which then led to what you mentioned, the Pope signing off on that confederation to dissolve the corporatocracies, yet it's still playing out right now, right? And to the people in that marketing arm, those people to be the ones who are saying, we're going to take initiative, or we're going to join an initiative like we just saw last night, which is never happened before since the Northwest Ordinance, which was brought in by British. And who did we fight as the Continental Army? The 2nd Canadian Regiment and Norman Traversy's ancestors fought with the French, with the Russians against the British Empire, which we now know with the massive amounts of human trafficking, drug trafficking, child trafficking, enslavement, sex trafficking, and satanic ritual abuse. They knew something back then 250 plus years ago that we're all just learning now in the last 25 months or 250 days, thanks to X and what President Trump is doing and freedom.gov is doing, and just launching this with the DOJ and the Epstein files. So that's a big roundabout way to look at the fact that people are standing up and they've had enough of the system that sucks your soul, time, energy, and money, the Kabbalistic system, the one set up by Vatican Bank. Vatica, remember, is the Greek goddess of the dark underworld. There are 55 known miles of tunnels under the Vatican, not including the library where we had tons of gold as well as other precious metals and off-world and ancient technology from our world, all housed under there, and also different vaults. And again, last night, historic moment, 177,000 signatures passed for the Alberta independence referendum. So now you get to October, everybody, congratulations. So you have the Texas of the North. You have the 4th largest oil and natural gas producing state or province, whatever you want to call our boundaries right now in the world, right there. That's pretty powerful because we're not at the free energy point that is ubiquitous yet, but it will be. And you have people saying, no, we want to close our borders, get rid of the invaders. We want to bring everybody to account for crimes against humanity, RICO, fraud, crimes against children, additional war crimes which have been happening, and make sure we have all our generations moving forward safe and secure for our family with lawful justice. And also you have that Jural system, which I love, which we've already covered here as well. And that's what's coming for everybody to stand up and hold others to account. You have to step into it. Like you just heard from Debbie, blinders on, not going to do this except seat the largest freaking state in the world on our hemisphere in 10 months. Where other people have been sitting around for 12 years talking Northwest Ordinance and not doing anything, in my opinion.
First state in 14 years. Right?
Talk about get her done. That's Canadian Soldiers World War I, by the way. That's where it came from. Larry Cable Guy made it famous again. Get her done. You're looking at people who get her done. Over to you, Glenn.
On that point, Debbie did that tape that you made that we all listened to, I think it was about a week ago, just maybe a few days ago. I think to tell your audience how to be able to ask, see that video so that they can build. It was a master class in how to bring up a state in just a few weeks, and that's what you did. And so, do you have a way or a URL that you can give to people so that they can listen to that video?
Well, we have a Rumble channel, and everything that we do, we post on Rumble and True Social. True Social is actually our official public notice channel, but Rumble is kind of our marketing arm now. And so the people that are inside the Republic, if you have been seated inside the Republic, we'll give you the link to that transition training. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
We did a transition training and then we did an election training. And we're going to be doing more trainings because we got to start with A and then go to B. We can't just do election. But we did election training first because, number one, we just finished our lawful election. And also, number two, and more importantly, really, there's a lot of states like Florida who are ready for their election. They've already seeded their counties. Like in California, we joined the Union in 1850. There were 27 counties then. Now we have 58. So we seeded 27 counties and 27 made their proclamation to reclaim their property and their land. And yeah, right there on our Truth Social channel. Oh, there's the Rumble channel. Yeah. And so it won't be seen. Our trainings can't be seen by the public eye. You got to be inside the Republic to get that training. And if you are, please reach out to myself or Dina. We'd be happy to give you those links because we're just trying to get everyone who's on James Timothy Turner's God downloaded, given to military plan together, united at r4usa.org. And every state is going to be able to claim their job forms, which is what we call a registration. When people hear the news, oh my gosh, they need me. I can do something to stand up for my constitutional republic. In fact, because it is of the people, for the people, by the people, it's required. Donald Trump told us it's because of people like you who believe in and defend the great American ideals of faith, family, community, and country first. It's because we have to do our part, guys. He gave the Republic back to us on January 20th, 2017. So anyway, if you people, there it is, click on the maps there. Would you click on the maps up at the top? There it is. You can see the light green are these states that are ready to have their election, and dark green are the state that has fully stood up for the Republic. And if you click on California, we can show you exactly what seats are open. So yellow is the gold. Let's say gold because we're the gold rush state. Those are fully unseated. If you click on any gold county, you'll see that it is fully unseated. There's the population when it was established. We have not seated it, nor is it settled. We need you guys. Come on. These are the original seats of the Republic. There's another one. You unseated. We need you guys. So come on in. A light green is partially seated. So if you click on Napa or Siskiyou, Stanislaus, oh, not that one. Sorry. Try another. There we go. Yeah, right there. We've got a commissioner there, and she's ready and waiting for her partners and other patriots who love America and want to be a constitutional republic. We want to seat you as an interim placeholder in Napa County so we can get Napa set up and settled on the land. So anyway, if you click on any dark green, well, that's okay. You'll be able to see that we're seated and we're settled. We have taken back. In fact, I think it's like 86% of the population has been claimed back in the California State Republic. They're fully seated. And there's the settlement date for San Mateo County on April 4th, 2025. And so their Jural Society is in order and they have monthly meetings. Their SLO is seated. I think there's a couple seats open. There could be, nope, these guys are rocking and rolling. We've got a sheriff that is seated as every position is interim, guys. So we're just waiting for the collapse of the corporate system. They're going to go bankrupt. I think they already are insolvent. Yeah. So we just have to get to the public news. But I wanted to say something about how do you take action in the middle of a covert operation? And this is what I call a faith vision. In a faith vision comes from a knowingness in your heart. And it helped me that my uncle was a colonel in the Army, West Point graduate, master's in engineering. He carried the football around Europe in the Vietnam War. Pretty sure if you carry the football, you're a Q clearance guy. Okay. So Uncle Phil gave me a lot of incentive. His son went on, and I just found out, here's my cousin, right? I should know better, but he was in the Pentagon. What are the dates? I think 2008 through I can't remember, to be honest. I'm going to say it wrong, so I'm not going to say it. Anyway, he was assistant judge advocate general in the Pentagon. And 3 months after he retired, that missile hit his office. Okay. And that's what happened.
And then I was at that office, and then I was 18 stories below the Pentagon. A few years later, my sister was teaching at the Pentagon. Then she taught at Fort Meade at NSA, and then she taught at DIA and some other places. Wow.
I mean, so you have this kind of information, and, it helps that knowingness in your heart. But when I heard the story, I just asked, God really is calling his army. He is the one who has prayerfully told the people who've asked him, are you going to save America? And the answer is yes. And you guys are going to do it. And so I began practicing this thing called discernment. 2020, when all the crazy stuff would come, information, disinformation, we just take it to prayer. Is this real? Is this not real? Not that I'm a prophet, I am not, but it helps you take action in a covert operation, because that's what we're under right now. A lot of people don't have eyes to see or ears to hear. But what I said is, you know what? This is what I know to be true, and this is what we need to get done. And therefore, we're taking no prisoners. We're going with the racehorse blinders.
Excellent.
It's truly remarkable. And when we're looking at from the seeding of the Republic, so all links, again, the letter R for Romeo, the number 4, USA, that was the website we were on. You're looking at it for the California Republic. All the rest is for America there. And then, yes, with people in the chat elsewhere, well, we can go back to Article 11, November 15, 1777. The colony of Canada was acceded into the Constitution of the United States of America. The unfortunate fact, which is not fun, is the British government came in, we were divided by Upper Canada and Lower Canada at that point in time, which is now known as Ontario and Quebec. Then it was reconsolidated, the lines redrawn, right? Like President Trump said about the 49th parallel. He's like, it's invisible. Who put that line? They just drew a line across there. Just a fake line, right? And that was a year ago, and he was continuing to troll everybody. Carney, Trudeau, Gretzky, governor, 51st state. It was amazing, right? We're all excited, and this is great because at the end of the day, it is required by people to stand up for themselves. The military and the law of war manual is looking at everything, and they have a timeline, and they have to eventually give it back to the civilians. But they're literally waiting here for that to happen. And we can only go so far and ask so much of those who are in office at the moment from a public standpoint that everybody's been aware of, President Trump and his tight white hat team, and then the rest of the central casting around them, to get it to a certain point. So then what you're doing is you're seeing the men and women on the screen and the teams of the men and women behind here, as well as President Turner and his incredible gifts that he has brought so far to all of mankind in the world. Because if you lose America, we lose the world. That's an absolute fact. We know that. And even though President Putin is not here 2.0 to back us up on that, I think he would say so as well, right? Because President Trump at the moment is the commander of the free world and the wartime commander-in-chief. So everybody is in Ontario. Everybody's in Australia. Look to Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi, right? whom Dean has also met too when he was over in Australia, which is another amazing little serendipitous moment in conversations we've had. It's up to people to go, I want to help. I want to volunteer. Maybe you don't want to be the governor. Maybe you don't want to be, coming up for the Secretary of State. But I'll tell you what, I guarantee with Debbie, I guarantee with Clyde, I guarantee with Dean and everybody else that they could use some help. They could use some volunteers. They need people to go out and meet. They need people to canvass like we just saw in Alberta, which is still happening. Nobody has stopped. And think about this movement, for example, for everybody around the world. The Alberta independence movement launched just a few months ago. And on March 20th, just a week and a half ago, we saw at the pyramids of Giza in Egypt, canvassers from Alberta, Canada, with the Alberta flag, set up at the pyramids of Giza, set up in Arizona, set up in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So it's all in our hearts to do something about that, share that in an information age. I mean, the knowledge can be extremely powerful when you align with people, and all the hard work's already been done as far as I'm concerned, everybody. So I just want to put that out there for context that it's ready to go everywhere. You need people to stand up, people to volunteer, and people to support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with that, Clyde, we've got Florida elections coming up. Would you mind chatting about this and how people can participate? And I've just sent our private chat on a Rumble comment. Somebody in Florida wants you to contact them. I don't know who the individual is. It's a Rumble handle, but I've sent that over to you. But there is a Florida election coming up. So how would this play out for the re-inhabited republic? How do elections take place? Would you just inform everybody to this fact?
Yeah, we just inform everybody that we have in our lists, and get people to encourage people to their friends and bring them in and vote and get this thing going. We need to get Florida set up. Florida's a huge state in this because we've started at an early time on it, and a lot of people have been involved, and some of them have gone by the side. We just got to go back and get some of those people that have gone by the side, bring them back in, and get the new people. I think we have with what Debbie's done and the videos that we have. I love the video with you and talking about Tim and the whole thing. Those two videos of you and Sandy and you and Tim, I think those videos, we need to really get those out to the people of Florida and everybody else.
I think that was Kelly. Wasn't that Dean and Kelly?
Was that Dean Kelly?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah. But those videos are excellent for getting this out. So, yeah.
And would it be appropriate for everybody to go to the r4usa.com, the sign up form here, Republic for the United States of America? Is this the proper page for
That's
everyone?
where everybody will register. It's r4usasignup.org, or you can go to r4usa.org and also come to this page. If you go back to home and then join the Republic there, that takes you to the same registration form.
Got it.
Yeah. So
excuse me 1 second before I forget. Jennifer actually told me, Jennifer Bishop, to tell everybody to go to your website in California to sign up for.
Okay, and you can do that as well. We didn't want to make it about California, but thank Jennifer for that. Yep.
All right, that's really good because we have people posting in comments to go to a completely different re-inhabited republic website. So I just want to make a point that what's being asked here from the actual people who are re-inhabiting the republic, not talking about it, they're the action takers, the doers, and the aide de camp for the actual elected president of the republic, James Timothy Turner, are telling you, if you want to get involved, you can either go to r4usa.org or you can go to californiarepublic1849.com and get involved. All the information is there. Do not go to any other links.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah, I love that site. The single star, just like Texas, right? Another Lone Star state, because they were a republic before they entered the Union.
Mm-hmm.
That really gets your attention in a hurry.
Yes.
Well, this is right now is the time for unity. And the Republic has gone through a lot of twists and turns, a lot of confusion. And like Dean said, there are people out there trying to hook their wagon to James Timothy Turner's military plan that was downloaded to him. But he's really 1.0. He is the first elected president. And we're just saying, if this is the plan you're following, because you've got to be following this military plan to be recognized, right? If we do it the way James gave it to the military, now we follow that plan, we're going to be recognized by the military. They're going to match them up and go, oh yeah, you did do it the right way. And so everything has to be done lawfully by the Constitution of the United States, also by your state. And so each state only has to follow those two rules.
Yeah, that's really critical. The remaining in lawful civil authority is kind of the prime directive that the military gave Tim, and he's done everything under his power since he's been involved to maintain that. And when it wasn't possible with that which was, and that's all I'm going to mention, when it wasn't any longer possible, and I can promise you, I heard a year's worth of back and forth of why they were where they were, how they were not following due process, how they were out of lawful civil authority, how they weren't following their oaths. I mean, I can go through a laundry list of issues, but the fact remains you have to remain lawful civil authority, and that's why he departed that particular incarnation of the Republic.
Outstanding. And we have other people in the chat looking at Minnesota, other states here. It's wonderful. So once again, head on over to r4usa.org or to the Californian Republic 1849 link. And I would imagine this volunteers of everybody, because it's not paid staffs. These are volunteers like the Alberta Independence Moon, all volunteers to stand up the Republic wherever you are and get involved. We'll be answering the emails, and then you'll have all the information and the alerts of the elections coming up, the seats that need to be filled. Is that correct?
Well, it's a registration form. That's the beauty of it. We completely, sidestep where things can get lost in spam and people not manage to connect by using this registration form. And it's just been a godsend. It really has. And another divine intervention, because 3 people all had the same idea at about the same time. It was, the person who created that interactive map, the person who created that registration form, and the person who created the R4USA connection to California, right? All of them pretty much decided this is how we take this that we just did in California National, and here it is. And it's the most elegant solution. I'm a systems background, and I can tell you, I was tasked with coming up with an elegant solution, and there is no more elegant solution than what we now have for the people of the Republic.
The beautiful thing about what we have right now is, in the past, the people that had registered would be passed to the states through an email system, a webmail system. And if they felt like you didn't do the right thing, you could get your webmail taken away. And that's why we did this direct to the leaders from the registration form. There's nobody over us. It's going direct from the registration form simultaneously to me, to my Secretary of State, to my vetting committee, and they can call that person. That's why we require the name, the email, the phone number, and the county that you live in, because that way we know exactly where our counties are, how many are seated, how many are needed, and you can see it too by using that interactive map. And then your registration form comes in. So what's going on right now, Brad, is Dean is, we're going to bury him. We are burying Dean, okay? It's like a dunking, you get to throw the ball and he goes in the water because he's got all of the states calling Tim and Dean going, I got to get the passwords. We're ready. We are on your plan. And a lot of these people have been waiting for the time at which Tim would be able to stand up. So Dean, I'll toss that back to you there.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something. It's not the three cannons that Derek continually manages to bring out about Brandon, but I am getting buried, but not that way. But it's a good bury because, you know, we've got people coming in that I didn't believe we'd ever hear from again. And it's because the truth is setting us free. I mean, it's really that simple. You know, when we look at this is a battle of good versus evil. I don't want to talk about, you know, blue and red and the uniparty. And we all know that now, right? We all know they wanted us to be in their legislative democracy, which is 10 square miles of District of Columbia, now the Washington District. Why? Because that was one of the three legs of the cabal. Vatican for spiritual and religious, economic, City of London. And by the way, all these are city of, right? They're their own little principalities. So the third one, of course, Washington, D.C., the military arm. And all of those are being dismantled as we speak. I believe personally that Washington, D.C. was dismantled when the flag was handed to Melania on the 250th anniversary of the United States Army in Washington, D.C.
Right.
So we're on the path. We're on the trek. We're definitely going to make this happen because it's what the Creator has asked us to do. And we've got the emissaries, Donald John Trump, James Timothy Turner, others in the fight that are out there and basically taking us to this next level, this next step. And it's as simple as repopulating. And as Tim says very simply in his Alabama redneck way, we're just putting butts in seats and saddles. Let's do it. The heavy lifting's been done. We just got to get them filled. And again, it's already been done. We just need to refill them because of the fact that it was decimated when he was kidnapped.
Well, I think that's a wonderful place to wrap it up right here in a little over 90 minutes. So final comments from everybody. We'll go Dean, Clyde, and leave it with the ladies for last and the governor right now of the California Republic. Dean.
So looking back at the plan that the Creator gave James Timothy Turner, there's something that's blatantly obvious right now. We've all seen what happened with Doge. Well, Doge was more than exposing, you know, where the fraud was coming from. Doge was about finding the cash flow for the cabal. It was figuring out the hidden accounts. It was figuring out where this subterranean, if you will, entire economic system to support the cabal was. And if you look at it, let's see, January, we had Venezuela. February, we had Mexico and the cartels. March, we've got Iran. Cuba's probably next. We'll see. But, you know, it's a very determined demolition and reconstruction of the scaffolding that supported this for all these many years, decades. And it doesn't happen overnight. And the beauty of it is that we've got the plan. It's the plan that we all know about. And, you know, things like, you know, going back to Doge as an example, USAID, NGOs, all of that scaffolding was what? It's almost the same playbook as what happened with FISA, right? We had this thing was supposed to protect us, but it boomeranged and they were using it against us. Same thing was happening with USAID. You know, it was a color revolution on the American people. And I think Canada can say the same of what happened up there. So when that settles in your heart, and you get that mind-heart coherence, the Christed consciousness that we all are developing in this process with discernment, watching this devolution plan play out, then we know what we have to do. It's that simple. And in this time, just before, you know, Ishtar, we want to be cognizant of where we are, where we're going, and how we avoid the mistakes of the past.
Well said, Dean. And just to add to that, I believe that it's all about our frequency at this point. It's about love, increasing love. Yeah. God, same frequency. God and love are both the same frequency. Just put our hearts and our attention there and leave it to God. This plan was created by God to Tim, through Tim, to us. And we are on the verge of going into an age of enlightenment that is going to just be unbelievable. Way, way, way different than anything that we've ever experienced before. So Yeah, it's a great time to be alive. I'm so excited to have that 8th granddaughter. I don't see him get my older grandsons are in their 20s.
Wow.
Come on, I want some great grandkids. I'm getting old here. I want to see the great grandkids coming. But anyway, it's going to be a great age of enlightenment we're going into, and it's going to be a joy to work with all of you together and all of us that are involved. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've never had anything but fun with this movement.
Yeah.
It's just been great ever since I've been involved. So with great people. So anyway, that's my thoughts.
It's incredible.
That's great, Clyde. And I gotta say, I'm in complete agreement. We're doing this for our kids and our grandkids. I have 2 beautiful grandsons, and I like to take them swimming. We're in the pool almost every day. It's just great. And they're 10 months and 4 years old. And oh my goodness.
Isn't that amazing? It's just amazing.
Future tadpoles. We're good.
But what a time to be alive, and what a pleasure it is to have eyes to see and ears to hear and be able to take action in a covert operation.
Yeah.
Because pretty soon.
We're blessed to be involved. We're blessed to be involved.
Absolutely.
And I have found my peeps. That is right, Clyde.
Yeah, exactly.
I have found my peeps. When you got all these people out there that are zombies, and you come home into the Republic, and you've got people who get it.
It's so
It's
uplifting.
pretty fun.
Yeah, it really is.
So I appreciate you having us on, Brad. Really
Yeah. Thank you,
powerful podcaster, and love your shows. So thank you for letting us tell our story. And I hope God is with us. I know He is.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say I echo all of what's just been said, but I didn't know if you guys touched on this, but we've actually planning an event July 4th and 5th weekend, somewhere in the middle of a country. It's looking pretty good at the moment. We'll get that clarified in the next few days, but watch our space, watch our website, and we'll be posting it really soon, because one of the best things that Tim talks about time and again is, and what he missed the most when he was incarcerated, was family. This republic is his family. We all love each other, respect each other, have tolerance and grace for one another, and all are welcome. We just got to get this thing done. We really do. And fellowship is one of the cornerstones of how we've been able to do it. And that's why people from that 2008 to 2012 timeframe just keep coming out of the woodwork every day. They know what's happening, and they want to be a part of it again. Absolutely.
They certainly do. We have incredible comments here on YouTube and Rumble watching right now. And I would encourage everybody after this show ends to go down, because in Rumble, the comments don't get saved like they do in YouTube. So post those comments for everybody to see there, for inspiration, to be in spirit, inspiratu. That's exactly where inspired comes from. And then I would encourage every single man, woman, patriot watching now, go to r4usa.org and you go sign up on that form. So give your appreciation. And then the next step is taking action, right? Go to r4usa.org. Right over there, you will see where you can sign up, get the alerts, get involved, because as Trump posted last year, 2025 is the 1776. Here we are now, where you have an opportunity to participate and not only just be on the outside, be on the inside of the resurrection, restoration, and rehabilitation of the Republic of America, for which everybody is standing as one nation under the great omnipresence of divinity, GOD, May 17th coming up. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for the men and women like yourself, Governor Clyde, hopefully soon to be an elected Attorney General, and Dean, for all the work and everything, and the blood, sweat, tears, and heart you pour into all of this to make this possible. Stay tuned, everybody. The three of you guys just hold as soon as we end the show here. Bye-bye, everyone. God bless you all.
Have a blessed one.
Thanks for joining us on the program, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, follow, subscribe, share this with 9 friends and family. And of course, if you enjoy our blinged Buddha firing red pills from his 9mm, let us know.